What if Taylor Swift's most emotional era never really ended? For years, fans have watched her transform heartbreak, uncertainty, love, ambition, and personal growth into some of the most recognizable music of her generation. But now, in 2026, something about her story feels different. The emotional chapters are still there, yet the person telling them seems to have changed. And that may be the most interesting part of Taylor Swift's new chapter. At first glance, it might seem like Taylor has already moved far beyond the emotional intensity that defines so much of her career. After all, she has traveled through country music, pop, intimate songwriting, experimental storytelling, and the enormous Eras Tour. Her official archive now presents that journey almost like a living timeline, from her debut and Fearless through Folklore, Evermore, Midnights, The Tortured Poets Department, The Life of a Showgirl, and the Eras Tour itself. But the surprising truth is that emotional storytelling has never really disappeared. It has simply evolved. What makes this moment especially fascinating is the way Taylor appears to be connecting her past with her present. Her latest major album, The Life of a Showgirl, represents another distinct chapter in her creative journey, while her 2026 release, I Knew It, I Knew You, written for Toy Story 5, shows that she is still exploring emotional storytelling in completely different settings. Disney and Pixar confirmed that the song was written and produced by Swift and Jack Antonoff for the film. Instead of simply repeating the emotions of earlier eras, Taylor seems increasingly interested in what those emotions mean after years of experience. And then came a moment that made the connection even clearer. During a recent Grammy Museum appearance, Taylor performed a medley that brought together I Knew It, I Knew You, August, and All Too Well. The choice was striking because those songs represent very different emotional worlds. One belongs to her newest chapter, another is associated with the reflective storytelling of Folklore, and All Too Well remains one of the songs most closely connected with her reputation for turning personal emotion into narrative. The performance effectively created a bridge between different versions of Taylor Swift. But here is where the story becomes even more interesting. Perhaps Taylor is no longer trying to leave those emotional eras behind. Perhaps she is learning how to carry them with her. That is an important difference. When an artist is young, emotional songs can feel like snapshots of a specific moment. Years later, the same emotions can become reflections on memory, growth, and perspective. A song that once represented heartbreak can eventually become a story about survival, understanding, or simply recognizing how much a person has changed. That evolution may explain why longtime fans continue to find themselves emotionally connected to Taylor's older music. A song does not necessarily become irrelevant when life moves forward. Sometimes it becomes more meaningful because the listener has changed. The same lyrics can sound completely different at 25 than they did at 16. And Taylor's career has grown alongside millions of listeners who have experienced their own relationships, disappointments, achievements, and new beginnings. There is another important layer to this new chapter. Taylor has repeatedly shown that she understands the difference between public expectations and personal creativity. In a recent conversation with the Recording Academy, she discussed the pressure surrounding her career and explained that she continues making music because she genuinely chooses it. Her comments emphasized the idea that songwriting and performing remain deeply meaningful to her despite the enormous attention surrounding everything she does. That perspective makes her current era feel less like a performance designed to satisfy expectations and more like a continuation of an artistic journey she still wants to explore. And perhaps that is why the word emotional still belongs in the conversation. Emotional does not always mean sad. It can mean reflective. It can mean grateful. It can mean nostalgic. It can even mean peaceful. Taylor's newer chapter appears capable of holding several of those emotions at once. Instead of constantly asking what happened next in the story, fans may now be watching Taylor ask a different question. What does everything that happened before actually mean now? That question becomes especially powerful when you look at how carefully she has built connections between eras. Her official website continues to present her albums as distinct eras, while also preserving the larger story that connects them. It is almost as if the past is not being archived and forgotten, but kept available as part of a much larger creative universe. And then there is the speculation surrounding what could come next. Recent fan discussions have focused on visual clues, colors, fashion choices, and possible connections to earlier albums, with some fans wondering whether Taylor could eventually revisit another part of her catalog. These theories remain speculation, and there is no reason to treat every visual detail as an announcement. But the fact that fans continue searching for clues says something important. They believe the story is still moving. Maybe that is the real reason Taylor Swift's most emotional era may not be over. It was never just one album, one relationship, one tour, or one period of her life. It became a storytelling language. She learned how to take moments that felt temporary and turn them into something that could last for years. Now, with more experience behind her and an entirely different perspective ahead of her, those same emotional instincts can create stories that feel completely new. The biggest change may be that Taylor no longer has to prove that she can reinvent herself. She already has. What comes next could be less about becoming a completely different Taylor Swift and more about discovering what this version of her wants to say. That could make the next chapter quieter, brighter, more reflective, or something nobody expects. And maybe that is what makes this moment so exciting. Taylor Swift's story is no longer simply about moving from one era to another. It is about showing how every era can remain part of you while you continue becoming someone new. The heartbreak, the ambition, the memories, the celebrations, and the lessons do not have to disappear. They can become the foundation for whatever comes next. So the question is not whether Taylor Swift has finally left her most emotional era behind. Maybe the better question is whether she has learned how to transform it into something new. What do you think about Taylor Swift's current chapter? Do you think her next era will be more emotional and reflective? Or do you think she is preparing for an entirely different direction? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.